Hello, my little pretties. What's up? It's your mistress, the Queen of Lions here, and welcome today for another episode of Shadows and Pretties. We're at episode 45. Holy, we're on a roll. Well, we've been doing this for, I guess since ever since I got 1K subscribers. So today we are going to do another Christmas movie. So today in this Christmas movie, we are going to review at least and talk about the 1994 Disney movie, The Santa Claus. Yes, The Santa Claus, the one starring with Tim Allen in this movie, which I really like the fact that Tim Allen was in this movie. And I really do like the fact that, the first Santa Claus movie and the Santa Claus 2 were pretty good movies. I'm not going to go too deep in the third movie because I really don't really care for the third movie that much. I don't really know what it is, but it's just not the same as the first two movies. But without further ado, I'm going to explain what the first movie is about, and we'll go on with the second movie a bit, so that you guys can have the opportunity to know what the second Santa Claus movie is. Now, the first Santa Claus movie, I really like that Tim Allen is in this movie. Yes, he is the same person who voiced, you could definitely say. He voices, Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story. That's how you guys might know who Tim Allen is. If you guys don't know who Tim Allen is, then I highly recommend you look up Toy Story Tim Allen, and it should explain, who the actor is. And I can't believe he's almost in his 70s, and he's still kicking. He's, making a lot of movies. One of my favorite movies with him in it is, besides the Santa Claus, is the Toy Story movies. Now, with that being said, I did talk about Toy Story in another episode, so feel free to check out that episode if you want to. So, okay, the Santa Claus movie was made in 1994, a Christmas comedy film written by Leo Benoveri and Steve Rodonick, and it was directed by John Pasquin. It's the first film of the Santa Claus series that casts, Tim Allen as Santa Claus, aka Scott Calvin, an ordinary man who accidentally causes Santa to fall from his roof, and when his young son Charlie finishes up the St. Nick trip deliveries, they go to the North Pole, where Scott learns that he must become the new Santa and convince those who loved is indeed the new Santa Claus. So, with that being said, that's basically the summary of it. So, I am going to be pretty much spoiling everything about this movie, so if you guys have not really seen that one, if you guys have not seen it and you don't want me to spoil it, I highly recommend you, click off this if you don't want to hear any of what I'm about to say. So, with that being said, I think we should go right ahead and begin. So, Scott Calvin, also known as Tim Allen, is a successful toy salesman and prepares to spend Christmas Eve with his young son Charlie. Scott wants Charlie to maintain his belief in Santa Claus despite not believing himself. Of course, Scott's former wife Laura and her psychiatrist husband, Dr. Neil Miller, both stop believing in Santa at a young age and feel that Charlie needs to as well. So on Christmas Eve, Scott and Charlie are awakened by the noise on the roof one night, and Scott investigates to find a man standing on the roof as well. On Christmas Eve, of course, Scott and Charlie are, of course, with that being said, Scott startles to slips into falling on the ground. Of course, the dead man's body appears to be left behind a red suit and a business card stating that if anything were to happen to Santa Claus, whoever is responsible must put on the suit and continue from where Santa left off. He insured the card that says the reindeer will know what to do. And so, to please Charlie, Scott dons the continue where Santa left off, but of course spends the rest of the night delivering presents before the reindeer takes them back to North Pole. Once they arrive, Bernard, who is the head elf, explains to Scott that because he put on the new suit, he is subjected to legal technology known as the Santa Claus, meaning that he's agreed to accept all of Santa's duties and responsibilities, and gives him 11 months to get his affairs in order before reporting back to North Pole on Thanksgiving. So confused and overwhelmed, Scott decides to change into pajamas that he provided him and falls asleep. So when I really remember watching this movie as a kid, I'm sure most of you guys remembered seeing this movie as a kid, I've always wondered if this was actually very true, which it could be very possible. But with that being said, I still really like how this movie went out. It was a really well-made movie. Now, with that being said, if you're like a Disney fanatic like I am, or if you guys are looking for a Christmas movie to watch, I highly recommend the Christmas movie right here, the Santa Claus, the first one, and the Santa Claus 2. if you guys like the escape clause, which is the Santa Claus free, that's totally fine because I respect your opinion, but I'm not that crazy on the third movie, which I'll talk about a little about it later on. So, the next morning, Scott wakes up in his own bed to believe that the events that happened to the prior night was a dream, and he still sees that he's wearing pajamas that were given to him. Over the course of the following year, Scott undergoes a drastic transformation as he begins to grow a large amount of weight, resulting in a rounded, pudgy belly, along with the increased liking for sweet food, especially milk and cookies. He later develops a thick beard that grows on his face, and despite the attempt to shave it off, his hair whitens and proves to him immune of dying. Scott's failed alternative state brings to Laura and Neil to an assumption that Scott is deliberately attempting to confuse Charlie, and of course successfully the petition to the judge to suspend Scott's visions at night. Devastated, Scott and Laura goes to Laura and Neil's house on Thanksgiving. Despite the help of his father to realize how important he is, Charlie shows Scott a magical snow globe that Bernard had given to him, convincing that Scott it really is Santa. So after Scott asks Laura and Neil to talk to Charlie alone, Bernard appears and transports him and Charlie back to North Pole. Believing that Scott has been kidnapped Charlie, Laura and Neil contact the cops. So later on Christmas Eve, Scott sets off to deliver gifts with Charlie in this around town. However, upon arriving at Laura and Neil's house, he gets arrested, but of course the elves sent to rescue him and escape him from jail. So Scott returns to Laura and Neil's house and manages to convince him that he is Santa and asks Charlie to spend Christmas with him as his entire family too. So Laura, of course, burns down the court papers banning Scott's investigation rights and tell him that he can visit any time. And Bernard then appears and tells Charlie that if he shakes this snow globe at any time, his father would appear before leaving soon. Of course, Scott gives Laura and Neil 2 Christmas presents that they never got as children, which disbelief in Santa, which the police try to arrest him. Of course, Scott is able to prove his identity to them and witness before headed off. So shortly after he leaves, Charlie summons Scott back home with a snow globe, and Laura agrees to let Charlie go with Scott for a short ride in the sleigh. So Scott embraces his new role as Santa and leaves Charlie to deliver presents. So that was actually the first movie called The Santa Claus. I really do have to say that this one was actually a really well movie. Like, I remembered watching the Santa Claus movie when I was a kid, and it was a really good movie. To be completely honest, I really do like how the Santa Claus movie went out. The plot line was good, the actors did a good job, especially Tim Allen, and, the whole plot of it was just flat out amazing. So with that being said, I am going to talk about now is the Santa Claus 2. Now, the Santa Claus 2 is, yet again, a Christmas comedy film directed by, someone else, and it's a sequel to the Santa Claus movie that came out in 1994, and of course is a second of the Santa Claus series. So I am going to sit here and we are going to basically explain what the second Santa Claus movie is. So the second Santa Claus movie takes place 8 years after the first events of the Santa Claus, with Scott Kelvin becoming the Great Santa at the North Pole, until head elf Bernard and Curtis, the keeper of the Handbook of Christmas, informs them that there will be another Claus, the Mrs. Claus. So Scott is now present to get married before the next Christmas Eve, or the clause will be broken and that he'll stop being Santa forever. So at the same time, Abby the elf delivers him more distressing news that Scott's son Charlie is still on the naughty list. So Scott must return home to search for his wife and set the right things right with Charlie. So when he visits by the counselor of the legendary figures consisting of Mother Nature, Father Time, Cupid, then the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy and the Sandman. Well, yeah, I know this kind of might be a shocking to you, but there's some, I guess you could say Rise of the Guardians reference in here. So I guess that could be maybe reason why this is the way it is. To cover Santa's prolonged absence, Curtis helps Scott create a life-size animatronic Santa clone, much to Bernard's horror. However, at Santa's request, Bernard reluctantly plays along and tells the other elves that Santa had a makeover, so they won't question about the double symphonetic appearance of the other one. So because of the impermanent make of the end of the contract, Scott undergoes a desatisfaction process that gradually turns him back into Scott Kelvin, and he's a limit for magic to help him. So when Scott returns home to his ex-wife Laura and her husband Neil, her 6-year-old daughter Lucy and Charlie, whom Scott realizes that it's been vandalized in the school to get attention, he and Charlie directly face the area of the school principal, Carol Newman, and when Charlie faces the lockers. So at the North Pole, Toy Santa tries to follow the rule books and begins to think that everyone in the world is on the naughty list because of their small mistakes. As a result, Toy Santa makes to take over the new pole using giant toy soldiers that he made to enable his plan and his elves to give lumps of coal for the world. So when Bernard exposes Toy Santa as fraud, the Toy Santa places him under house arrest. So after a few failed dates, Scott finds himself falling for Carol, and he accompanies her to a horse-drawn sleigh factically on Christmas party. So during the confesses when she used to believe in Santa as a child, until she was forced to stop doing so by her parents after fighting with children and told her that Santa wasn't real, using those of his Christmas magic. Scott, of course, events otherwise, and the doll party presenting everyone with their childhood dream gifts, which makes everyone's special presentation as Carol. So, with that being said, with his last remain of magic, he wins over and kisses under the mistletoe. However, when Scott explains to her that she's Santa, she believes that he is mocking her childhood and throws him out. Later, Charlie confesses to Scott how hard it is for Scott to never be around like fathers were, and reveals that the pressure was under conceal and secret that his father is Santa. Lucy manages to convince Charlie not to be mad at him, which leads Charlie to convince Carol that Scott is Santa by showing her the magic snow globe. So Curtis, of course, flies off to tell Scott about the toy Santa's plan, but however, Scott is used to use up the last of his Christmas wooing Carol and cannot return to North Pole, and with the help of the Tooth Fairy, Scott and Curtis manage to get back, only for Toy Santa to find them tie up, and Charlie and Carol spring them free by summoning the Tooth Fairy to fly them to North Pole. So when Scott goes after Toy Santa, who is already left with the sleigh, riding Chet and a rambunctious reindeer in training, they end up both crashing into the village with an army of elves. So Carol, Bernard, and Charlie and Curtis led them to a snowball fight to overthrow the toy soldiers. So, of course, the toy Santa, or fake Santa, is defeated and reduced to 6-inch height. And, of course, with that being said, Scott marries Carol in the ceremony, and Scott transforms back into Santa, and the Christmas proceeds at it costs. So Scott reveals the truth to Charlie about Lucy, about Scott being Santa. So, of course, it has done during the credits. It's clear that Carol has begun to transform into Mrs. Claus. So, that's basically what the plot of the second movie is. So, the second movie, I have to say, was a really good one. Even though it released 8 years after the first movie, I still find the second movie to be really good and really well made. It was amazing, really well made, and it was actually a really good movie. So, with that being said, I am going to say right now that this was actually a pretty good concept. So with that being said, I'm definitely going to say right now that I really liked how this story went out. It was just flat out amazing and really well done. I definitely have to say, the Santa Claus 2 was a pretty good sequel. Even though, yes, it was pretty good just like the first movie, I do have to say, I liked the first movie a lot more, but the second one did pretty good too. So that's definitely a very good positive I'm giving with this. So with that being said, I'm going to sit here and say right now that this was actually a really good, well-made story. Now, I could definitely say I watched the second movie when I was younger. I do like it. So, with that being said, I am going to sit here and, explain about what Santa Claus Free the Escape Clause is. Now, I'm not going to go too much detail in the movie because I really wasn't really a big fan of the movie. So, with that being said, I am going to say right now that, with that being said, I am going to explain what the movie is about, just so you guys want to know if you guys have not seen this movie. So, I don't remember seeing this movie in a long time, so I'm just going to explain what the third movie is about, because, so basically it takes place 12 years past since Scott Kelvin took the mantle of Santa Claus and married Carol Newman, who has now become teacher in North Pole. So on Christmas Eve, she tells a group of young elves the story from her life with Scott while expecting her first child. So when Scott invites its in-laws to the North Pole, along with Scott's ex-wife and her husband, with their daughter Lucy and Scott's son Charlie. Meanwhile, they are summoned by meeting the council of legendary figures, So, of course, with that being said, there is concerning behavior of Jack Frost, who is jealous that he has no holiday or special occasion on his honor. Now, I can understand, what that feeling is about. I do think I'm really glad that Tim Allen came back to do Santa Claus, and I'm really glad this one guy who played Jack Frost as Martin Short, he did a pretty good job as Jack Frost. So, basically what is going on is that, well, I'm just going to say right now is that Jack Frost is getting pretty jealous that Santa has a holiday and not him. So that's basically what the whole concept is. So with that being said, I'm going to sit here and say right now that he does want to, sent back again. So what happens is Scott plays the recording of Frost saying, "I wished I never been Santa at all," revoking the escape and causing Scott and Frost to go back to, how it all happened. So I could definitely say right now that this was actually was a really interesting story. Like, the concept itself did have like a potential, but I'm just gonna say that it just wasn't really a great film in my opinion. It just wasn't really that great in my opinion. I could definitely give this movie, props that they brought back, Tim Allen for Santa. Like, if they didn't bring Tim Allen back for Santa and replace him with someone else, then yeah, the rating of it would go lower. So with that being said, I wasn't really a big fan of the third movie. I don't know what it exactly was, but I wasn't really a big fan of that movie. I just can't really say right now. So I definitely have to say that I really do have to say that this whole concept itself was just it did have potential. I can definitely give this one benefit of the doubt. It did have potential, about, the whole concept. It did have potential, I'm not going to lie, but it executed poorly in my opinion. But yet again, that's just my opinion on the story. So, with that being said, I'm just going to sit here and say that, this film, I could definitely give it benefit of the doubt that it did have potential coming up with something new, but it failed in horrible ways. Well, it just didn't really work out very well. That's just my, opinion on the movie. So with that being said, I'm going to sit here and, explain, about the whole thing. So I'm going to sit here and be doing such for, of reasons. So I'm going to say, I really do appreciate, this story being as what it should have been. Like, it was an interesting concept in that, but I think what's the biggest problem about it is that it just, I don't know what it is. It just didn't bring up the magic that, it did back, in, back then. Like, it was actually pretty something, to be completely honest. I wasn't really, that crazy when it came to that. So I'm just going to say right now that I really wasn't really a big fan of this one. I just don't really know why, but I wasn't really a big fan of it. So I'm just going to say that right now that it was pretty much something. So I'm going to say right now that I'm just going to say, hey, that, this film had potential. The third one did, but I prefer the first two movies. The first two movies were good, but the third movie was not that great in my opinion. But I can understand and I can respect your opinion. If you like the third movie, that's totally fine. I don't have anything against that. So with that being said, my little pretties, what did you guys think of the Santa Claus movies? Did you like the first one, the second one, or the third one? Did you like them all? Did you like the first two? Did you like them? Did you not? Also, what we have done personally to help make these movies a lot better? Leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you happen to be brand new here on this channel, feel free to comment, subscribe, because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload so that you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out of here, and I will be seeing you all next time. So with that being said, I'll be catching you all in the next video. Peace out, everyone.